The G20 Agriculture Ministers meeting in Paris is in its last day. Now, they did agree on a new agriculture market information system. Great. But they fell short on the real issue, agreeing on commodity regulation to curb speculation. Sophia Murphy is a senior advisor on trade and global governance at the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy. She says the G20 could really make a difference if they're serious about tracking price volatility. She joins us now from Vancouver. Hi there, Sophia.
Hello.
I mean, Sophia, we've heard people, the French, for example, saying we need action to curb price volatility. It's really costing society, costing the poor countries an awful lot. But have they fudged the issue? Do they fail here?
Well, I think it's important that they met. It's important that they recognize that there's a real issue to deal with and that the agriculture ministries need to be involved if they want to find solutions. But I think that the communique they've come up with today reflects the fact that there's no real political agreement on what to do and a lot of hesitation about tackling the fundamental issues that are at stake here around the commodity exchanges, also around whether there's really enough supply for the kinds of demand we're making, and on whether international markets are going to provide a viable place for countries to get their food.
So it's the first meeting of this type we've seen, and at least they're sort of focusing or beginning to raise the issues they should be talking about.
That's absolutely right. They go through a series of topics from biofuels to this marketing information to the commodity regulation, all of which are very important if we're going to find answers.
Now we've got this, I'm sorry, Sophie, we've got this new agriculture market information system. It doesn't sound that exciting. Should we be getting worked up about it?
Well, we should be glad. We have a real problem with not knowing enough about what's available, but I think we're going to have to do a lot more work than just create this market information system to get where we need to be. What's happened fundamentally in the market in the last 20 years is a shift away from the exporting countries like Canada and the United States and the European Union in particular holding stocks. And the governments have decided to allow that to happen in the private sector. It's an expensive business to hold stocks and it's not politically very popular. Problem is that the private sector has a very different interest in stock holding than the public sector might have. And I'm yet to see how the private sector, who now hold most of the stocks for the international market, how are they going to be involved in this transparency effort when their own commercial interest dictates that these things not be transparent, and in fact they hold their stocks as a matter of commercial, they hold it secret as a matter of commercial importance.
Now, defenders of a free market in commodity speculation say, well, the futures just reflect economic realities. The ministers failed to agree on regulating futures. I know a lot of people are saying world hunger is being worsened by speculation, huge run-ups in food prices. What do you think should be done about futures regulation?
Well, it's a complicated topic. I think what the Ag Ministers have done is push it off onto the Finance Ministers, who probably want to hold on to it. I think there are two challenges. One is that the commodity markets themselves are showing a lot of volatility. It seems that the system is not yet working as hasn't found its feet, you might say. It's been deregulated over a period of 10 or 15 years. There's been a massive increase in the amount of speculative capital there that's drowning out the commercial activity of just buying and selling grain. And in that process, I think there's a lot of uncertainty about where prices might land and a lot of questions, some of them just technical questions about understanding what's happening, what informs the traders, and what does that mean about what's available. That's where the volatility comes in. But you have a second problem, and in a way the G20 really have squarely left that problem untouched, which is that the rich 20 countries are asking the rest of the world to depend on that commodity futures system for their own food security. And so where, periods of volatility in the 1970s and earlier periods in time, those countries really didn't depend on international markets for their imports, for their food security. Mm-hmm. Their dependence was for selling cocoa and coffee and tea. It had its own set of issues, but it wasn't for their actual food supply. Today, those countries depend on that market for their food supply to some extent. And the difficulty then is if that market is volatile and unpredictable, the countries who have very limited capacity to understand what's happening are being asked, in effect, to hedge their bets using these tools that they don't fully understand. In fact, not many people really do fully understand them. And they're asked to do that with very limited income. And in fact, one of the effects of deregulation in the commodity markets is to make that whole business of using futures contracts more expensive, which is, the money is just what these countries don't have.
And it's interesting too, we're almost out of time, but we've got the speculation of subsidized food exports from the rich world distorting and even destroying local markets. I'm thinking about US exports of rice, for example.
You have all of those issues where the G20 just doesn't agree. I mean, the trade negotiations to try and deal with some of those issues have fallen apart. They don't acknowledge that in today's communique. But the fact is the US government, other governments, South Africa are openly saying they don't have an international trade agenda that they can agree on. And so they don't have any way yet to deal with all of those distortions coming from G20 agriculture systems. Yeah.
Sorry, Sophia, say the last thing and we'll let you go.
Yeah, well, just one of the ways that you can highlight it is in the way they've avoided completely dealing with the problem of biofuels and the demand that makes on our limited food supply at the moment, adding greatly to volatility, but not something the G20 governments are ready to face yet.
No, it's a bit of a thorny one. Sophia, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Sophia Murphy, she's a senior advisor on trade and global governance at the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy. Let's see what's happening outside the world of business with CTV News Channel.